Good. Welcome. This is the Red Hook Town Board meeting of December 8th, 2020. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
and justice for all.
I think we were quite out of sync that time. Very good. Thank you all for joining us. This is the first town board meeting of the month, and as such, we begin with the supervisor's report. But before doing that, Matt, would you be kind enough to put up for the folks at home the agenda for tonight's meeting, please? There we go. Very good. If you could just blow that up a little bit, Matt, so it's a little bit easier to read. Very good. So yeah, we'll have the supervisor's report and the clerk's report, just a couple of quick announcements. And then we have two presentations tonight. One is from the Dutchess County Human Rights Commission, and they'll be getting us up to speed on the work that they're doing and how the town of Red Hook can assist in those efforts. We also have a presentation following from Riley. How do you say your last name, Riley? Please say it correctly.
Terabona, very Italian.
Very nice. Riley will be doing a presentation on some work that she's doing as a student, yes, over at Bard, trying to document, do inventory for accessibility in our town, and more specifically, I think tonight in the village and some of the village businesses. So I think it's going to be an interesting presentation on that. Then we have some ministerial work here. We've got a resolution accepting audit reports that we actually reviewed in a previous meeting, but we need to formalize them with a resolution. We've got a donation coming through us for the Red Hook Public Library. We're renewing our contracts, I believe, with the DCSPCA. One item of reorganization. And then we have a resolution, a bond resolution, yet another one. And so we begin tonight, as we do with the first meeting of the month, with the supervisor's report. This is a snapshot of the financials for the local government for a particular period. In this case, it's for the period ending November 30. 2020. And Matt, if you would scroll down to the next page, please. And just blow up that bottom, just one more page if you would. Okay, there you go, very good. So we began the month with an opening balance of $5,513,000. We had receipts of $866,000, as well as some account transfers. We had disbursements of $1.158 million. That leaves us a remaining balance of $5,221,188. We have, as you always do in your packet, the monthly variance report, town board members, as well as a compilation of what the CPF funds are. We have budget adjustments for 3 different periods here, if you have any questions there. We have had some good financial news, which we could use some good financial news. We successfully completed our refinancing, going out to the public market for our bonds. And we ended up having more savings than we originally anticipated, just under $140,000, of savings. We initially thought we might expect $115,000 to $120,000, so that's all good. We did receive also our semi-annual mortgage tax amount, and that turns out to be quite a bit above budgeted. So that will go for our general fund. It will be nearly $100,000 above what we had lowered our expectations. So that's all good news. In addition to that, I think I mentioned the Community Preservation Fund, which is now bumping up to $1.8 million. We had in the month of November, we had a contribution to that fund of over $126,000 alone just in 1 month. So those resources, which we use to acquire easements, recreational spaces as well, and we use those funds sometimes to pay down on bonds used for those same public assets. So all of those are sort of good reports going forward for our end of year budgeting purposes. Are there any questions that you had on the budget adjustments? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion to accept the supervisor's report and the budget adjustments.
So moved.
Thank you, Christine. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Bill O'Neill. I think you got it by a hair. All in favor, Bill Hamel,
Aye.
Jacob Testa. Very good. Thank you very much. And Deanna, we also have the town clerk's monthly report. If you'd be kind enough to read that for the folks at home. And Matt, if we could blow that up just a little more.
Okay, the town clerk's report for period November 1st to November 30th, 2020. Total shares remitted to the supervisors, $6,074. Amount paid to New York State Agriculture and Markets, $38. Amount paid to New York State Department of Health for marriage licenses, $90. And $5,075 was collected for garbage at the recycling center. The total state and local revenue, $6,202. And then I certify that the vouchers numbered 27019 to 27126 processed in the month of November 2020 are an accurate reporting of the abstracts approved for payment by the town board.
Very good. Thank you very much, Deanna. Is there a motion to accept the clerk's report?
So moved.
Thank you, Christine. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill Hamel. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good.
Aye.
Only a couple of quick announcements. I don't have a separate agenda item for COVID update, but I think it's very important that we do an update today. As anticipated, post holiday, post Thanksgiving, the numbers within our region and specifically also within Dutchess County, positive COVID cases has increased dramatically. If you have been following active cases, I believe in the beginning of November, we were under 200. We now have over 1,000 active cases, 91 hospitalizations. Our positivity rate, I think, is now pushing up in Dutchess County up towards 6%. These figures I'm giving you now relate to numbers from a day or two ago. The county is really asking everyone, and in particular those of us in local government, to please implore upon our citizens, whether you're believers in masking or not, to do everything you can to ensure that you keep your neighbors safe, that you keep yourselves safe, because right now they're very concerned about their ability, that's the county health department, in order to their ability to sort of treat all of the cases that are coming their way. They are concerned that if current rate continues, that within 2 weeks that the system may be overwhelmed. And so we ask you once again, please, the social distancing, wear the masks. We can debate this some other day, but let's do what we can to keep each other safe and that is the sobering statistics that we have. Town of Red Hook specifically, Matt, if you would scroll up, just to give you some idea, it shows very low numbers for both the town and the villages, but these are not up to date. I mean, there's over 600 cases that are so recent that they haven't been able to pinpoint the municipalities where they are located. So again, let's do everything we can to assist each other. Okay, public comments. We did not receive any public comments. And so we can go right into our public presentation. And that is from the folks at the Human Rights Commission. And Jody, I'm wondering, would you be kind enough, Doris, would either one of you be kind enough just to introduce the folks that are joining us now?
Sure. Jody will lead us in the presentation, and I'm
Okay,
Doris Diaz-Kelly, and I'm going to pass it on to Jody.
okay. Thank you, Doris. Jody?
You're muted, right?
She is muted. There we go.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jody Miller. I'm the Executive Director of the Dutchess County Commission on Human Rights, and I'm here with Doris Diaz and Diaz-Kelly and Bailey Williams, who are two members of our commission and officers on the commission. So tonight we wanted to talk to you about the commission's work, and this being our presentation tonight. We are doing these presentations to municipalities throughout the county. It's about a year-long effort to meet town, village boards, city councils, talk about what the commission does, talk about how this moment in time, what we've seen this year, is a real reckoning in our country and certainly in our community, as we are looking at facing racial bias and systemic racism. We want to be able to develop a closer collaboration and sharing information with local municipalities, explain what we do as a commission, what we don't do, and the way that we collect information and data, and also discuss some of the current issues that are taking place here in the county. What we've seen since we were established or reestablished, and also what we've seen more recently. So the commission was established originally in 1984, went on hiatus for a while after about it was in effect for about 23 years, and then it had about a 5 or 6 year hiatus. And under County Executive Molinaro, it was reestablished in 2016 with County Executive Molinaro and the legislature. We were comprised of myself, and then we have 14 volunteers who are really community leaders, and they are located throughout the county, from Beacon to Millerton to Red Hook, and everywhere in between. So we're really fortunate to have very dedicated volunteers who lead projects throughout the county. And we welcome new applicants. We have a rolling application process where people can submit their application, and when we have openings, we have a process where we work with a nominating work group to interview candidates and recommend them. So that's just a little bit about the commission itself. Here are all the members. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, they serve 3-year terms, and they can serve up to 2 3-year terms. And we really seek to have a very diverse commission that represents the county, both geographically, culturally, age, really across the board. So we really feel fortunate that people are devoting their time to carry out our mission. Doris is going to talk a little bit about our mission and our role.
So the commission's mission is defending human rights, bridging differences, and embracing diversity. And the commission carries out its mission through various things that we do throughout our year, fostering mutual respect and understanding amongst all racial, religious, and ethnic groups, educate the county's communities on issues and studies of human rights, addressing discriminatory practices as well as tension and conflict to help resolve them, organizing and participating in community activities to build goodwill and alliances to foster mutual respect and understanding, develop programs to enhance the inclusion and embrace diversity, acting as a bridge to other resources, including the New York State Division of Human Rights. And one thing the commission is not is an investigative body. We do not have any enforcement authority to carry out investigations. Some of the work we do, the activities we do, are throughout the year in different ways. We facilitate transformative dialogues through our 100 cups of coffee and listening sessions that take place throughout the county. We celebrate International Human Rights Day with partners to commemorate the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations in 1948. We provide educational outreach via tabling events, attending community events, conducting facilitator trainings for the community and local organizations, acting as an information resource for the county government and its municipalities, as well as New York State Division of Human Rights, inter-county forums with the Human Rights Commission of Orange and Ulster County on responding to hate. And we've been working with them very closely in the past year, and participation in the county's police reform work group and moderating the associated listening sessions that went along with that task, tracking and responding to bias and hate crimes as well. And at this juncture, Bailey will go into a little bit more information about the commission's work.
See how I can. Okay, just
Oh.
1 minute. Let me get to the slide. This is a photograph that was taken in our county in Poughkeepsie in 2019. It displays a Nazi swastika flag that was displayed in an apartment window. We had some community contacts about this. And it just kind of goes to show that even in our county, there are instances of bias and hate that are occurring. And over the past few years, we've generally seen an uptick in incidents such as these. We've seen swastikas spray painted on cars. White supremacist flyers have been circulated in villages and in college campuses. Destruction of property that displayed LGBTQ flags. Racial harassment of delivery worker. Xenophobia against many in the immigrant community is another issue that we've seen. A racist wall hanging in a restaurant. And during COVID in particular, we've seen an increase in instances of bias and hate against many in the Asian American community, as well as anti-Semitism. So when we're going to talk a little bit about responding to hate. So we have the phrase hate, do more than nothing. When hate occurs, it really creates fear for those who share the same identity, and it can affect a whole community. So even though something might be a individual is the only person who's directly affected, it affects the community as well. There's a ripple effect that occurs. And when people are afraid, they're less likely to participate in community and civic life. And so reporting and documenting hate is critical to identifying patterns and creating effective responses. Various things that we've been doing to help respond to these issues include speaking out about hate and its impact. It's really important that we are contacted when these types of instances occur so that we can track and have a full picture of what's occurring in the county, but also so we can offer our support for appropriate responses. We've been working with communities about ways to respond, and 2 suggested responses include taking collective action. So that means creating a visible collective community response that sends the message that hate isn't welcome. Some people will think, okay, if something happened, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to fuel that fire. I'm not going to give attention to it. But what that actually does, that silence signals apathy, and hate has space to grow. So it's really important that we address that hate, that we call it, that we name the problem that's occurring, and we speak out. And that's something that we're really trying to do, is work with elected officials in particular, to name those problems that are occurring in their communities and to speak out against it and to send a clear message about what is acceptable and what is not. And this is something that we've really learned through research and is backed up by the Anti-Defamation League as well. It's also important to include the people that are affected by these hateful acts or biased acts in the conversations. So some examples of how we've assisted with that are moderating listening sessions in Tivoli. We worked with the Village of Red Hook to help moderate some conversations about some murals in town. And so we really would like to offer ourselves as a resource to help address these issues so that it doesn't have space to grow. A united community against hate makes a difference. It really is important that that community message is there, that it's coming from elected officials, that it's coming from community members. And that's something that we found is really effective and important when addressing these issues.
So we are, the commission is seeking to create a stronger presence in local communities and be a resource with elected leaders. Be that resource to offer dialogue and bridge any conflict situations, facilitate an information exchange between the county and local municipalities to provide a greater awareness, and provide a liaison connection from each of the boards to liaise with the commission. So we are seeking the board to appoint a liaison that could be a connection with the commission. And that way we would be able to, stay in communication and know when things are happening. That liaison would be able to reach out to us. And I think Doris has sent that description. We have a description of what a liaison role would mean. And we found that can be really helpful to have a direct connection to each of the municipal boards in the county. So what we're currently witnessing in the country are ways in which hate and bias is in various forms can really weaken the fabric of a community and have a ripple effect, as Bailey said, that crosses groups. And the commission can really play a role as a resource for the community to look to address these issues. We hope that if any incidents are arising, that you would make us aware of them, because we are tracking anecdotally bias and hate incidents, and look to partner with municipalities in ways to address them. We're currently having, we're having the last in our series right now, doing More Than Nothing About Hate. We're all in this together. This is our third webinar in collaboration with the Orange County Human Rights Commission and the Ulster County Human Rights Commission. And this one will take place on December 15th from 2 to 3:30. All of our webinars are also on our website. And this one is Coming Together Against Hatred, a Black, a Latinx, and a Jewish Perspective, a discussion about racism and hatred, overcoming barriers, and how to collectively work together. So we're finding that this series has been really popular. And so we invite you to join us. Glad to take questions.
Very good. Thank you very much, Jody. We appreciate all the great work that you all are doing, and we have our local working group, and I know that Bill and Jacob have been in touch with you, and you're working together. And I think between the two of them, they'll figure out which one is going to be the liaison, and we'll get that back, that information back to you ASAP. And as far as your upcoming meeting next week, we would be happy to help publicize that. I think we would have some residents who would be interested in participating in that. So again, thank you very much for all that you're doing. Town board members, are there any questions that you have for Jody or for the group?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So registration, people can go right to the website. They can register on the website, and that's where also our annual reports are listed. So if anybody wants to see about our activities over the last few years.
Terrific.
Thank you.
You all made some very good points that I think important for all of us to remember. One thing that resonated with me is the ripple effect, because in the few instances that we have had in this community, and we have to be honest with ourselves and say that these occurrences happen here. You know, as they say, admission is the first step. And so it's amazing just how many people who were not involved in those incidents, the impact that it's had on them, the impact it's had on us as local leaders to know that this kind of stuff happens, even if it is infrequent, it's still profound and it's very disheartening. And so the more we can do as a community to root out this and to, share these instances and address it head on, I think the better we'll all be. And I think we can take the oxygen out of some of the folks that promote these types of behaviors. So really appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for joining us, and stay healthy. We need you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good to see
Very
you.
good.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Riley,
All right,
are you there?
I am. Let me screen share.
Okay. Well, I think it's sort of fitting that we're talking about human rights, and accessibility is for many folks, it's all about accessibility if they're going to be treated equally. And so I had a chance to review your slides, and I think it's especially for the folks in the village, the businesses, the landlords, frankly, I think this is going to be eye-opening. So without further ado, do you want to tell us who you are and why you're doing this?
Yes.
Okay.
So my name is Riley. I'm a first year at Bard, so I am very new to the Red Hook area. And I'm from Maine, so that's where I currently am. And I am a theater / maybe political science major. And I also am disabled. My left arm is paralyzed, and I have some other medical complications. And so disability advocacy has always been a part of my life. At first, it was it had to be there so that I could, live normally, but it's what I'm really passionate about. So during some of like my trips to Red Hook, whether that's like to get Golden Walk with friends or those things, I sort of started picking up on similarities to my town in Kennebunk, Maine, which is that because it's a small town and because it's older, it's not very accessible in the way that it's built. So, how do I? There we go. So this is a map of Red Hook. Now the issue with this map, for me, that I made this map, is that it's not very helpful when you're doing a presentation. It's better for a physical handout. So if you were able to see this better, there are some symbols that represent what areas are accessible and which are not. But because I'm a thinker of Bard, I have broken it down into slides so that it can be more easily digested. So I decided to focus mainly on restaurants and stores that are and are not accessible. So Yum Yum Noodle Bar was, I think, the first one that I noticed, because there are stairs leading to the main entrance, which obviously for people in wheelchairs is not really feasible for them to enter. And that was a recurring theme that I saw throughout a lot of Red Hook, is that the inside of the spaces might be pretty accessible with bathrooms or just space, but entering the building is where the issue came. The Flatiron Steakhouse is relatively accessible when you're inside, but there's a single elevated step to get into the restaurant. The Historic Village Diner is something that I thought is really interesting. if you don't know about the Americans with Disability Act, I recommend you read about it because it could definitely use some updating as it was made in the 80s. But the issue with the Historic Village Diner is that it can't be, it doesn't have to be changed because it's a historical landmark, and thus it doesn't have to be made accessible to disabled people, which I always thought was weird that we were putting history over the ability of disabled people to participate in a community. However, so the issue with this is there are very thin walkways. There aren't stairs to enter the establishment. It's a very small space. And then Cancun's is accessible in the main entrance, but it's not very spacious. And so that's a problem for people, especially in motorized wheelchairs. Now, looking at the positive side as well, there are some restaurants and stores in Red Hook that are also really accessible. So Taste Buds Cafe is a really good example of that. There aren't stairs. The bathrooms are accessible, similar to Red Hook Curry House, which also is accessible to people in wheelchairs, and Charlie O's. Golden Walk, there are stairs to the front entrance. However, there are pictures for the menu, which I guess I didn't think about until I was there, that like that's actually really helpful for people who are visually impaired to be able to order if they can't read as well as other people. So that being said, a little comparison, I guess, to some accessible communities. And these obviously are all cities and funding is very different, but I think it's always important to look at what could be and how a really accessible community might look. So Denver, Colorado is like known for its fully accessible metro line. It has like a lot of art centers that center around disability, and there's a lot of disability advocacy there. In Seattle, Washington, there's a lot of accessible housing and lots of transportation options. And then in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, there are accessible playgrounds, sports stadiums, parks. And so obviously Red Hook isn't exactly comparable to these, but the general idea is that these areas have really put in the effort to make their communities, no matter how big or small, accessible to as many people as possible. And I always have to remind myself that 10% of the population of the United States has a disability. And that's the biggest population, that's like a very big chunk of the population to be disabled. So I think it's really important to remember that when you're thinking about how many people would these changes be affecting. The answer is a lot. So I sort of laid out these questions for the community because I think they're really important to think about. And I don't have all the answers and you don't have all the answers, but sometimes you just have to put these things in your brain, put them away for a little while, think about them and see what might come up later. So how can individual citizens improve accessibility? This might look like trying to make their own home accessible if they have disabled friends, or even just educating themselves. Go to the library, check out a book by a disabled author, and learn. How can we learn about disability and accessibility in a way that is genuine but not invasive to disabled people? So it's important to hear from disabled people when they want to talk about it. You know, if I'm walking on the street, I don't want someone to say, "What happened to your arm?" Like, you know, I think it's important that when we're looking at accessibility, we're also thinking about the boundaries of disabled people. The next one I think is the most important. How does your work as an educator, business owner, whatever part of the community that you are focused in, how does it impact disabled people? If you're a business owner, how can you make it accessible to people? If you are on the town board, how can you, I don't know, have an 18-year-old girl present at your town board and talk about accessibility? If you're an educator, how can you incorporate disability into your curriculum so that more people can learn? So just, you know, a single person doesn't have to tackle everything. That's not how change is ever made. You just got to take a little bit. You got to take what you're passionate about and what you can focus on and think about how you can change that. And then is their representation of disability in this community's leadership. So what can we do to make Red Hook accessible? One thing that I think is a really great first step, I think it would show a lot of, I guess, interest in making Red Hook accessible, is to ask Red Hook restaurant owners to create menus in Braille. It could be, they each have like 10 menus in Braille and they hand them out if people need them. And I think that's really straightforward. I'm actually thinking about emailing as many of them as I can find and seeing if they would do it, because it's a simple task that would make a big difference. Making sure they're disabled people in Red Hook town leadership, because representation is really important to making change. Consider turning some of these stairs in town into wheelchair ramps, because that's something that could obviously done, like, if it had to be, like, someone could be like, oh, I'll sue it under the ADA. But if people start taking the initiative and saying, well, I want my business to be accessible to anyone who wants to come in, that's a much more community friendly way to make it accessible. Another thing would be to hold community sign language classes, especially for local businesses, so that they just have a baseline understanding of communication for hearing impaired customers. So if someone's trying to order in sign language, they can understand some of it. And then survey the community to ask what they believe could be done, because community input is really important to making Red Hook accessible. And that is all I have to say. And I really appreciate your time. And I hope that you think about some of these things, and I will be here for at least another 4 years. So I will certainly be making as much change as I can in the Red Hook area regarding disability. So that's all.
Thank you, Riley. This is terrific. You know, it's interesting because you're fairly new here, but folks who have been around have seen over the last several years, we've done a lot of work related to our town hall campus, to a sidewalk along the east side of Route 9. We have a fully accessible multi-sports field that we just completed this year, as well as new parking in both our parks, here at Town Hall, an accessible playground, all of those things. And those are municipal assets. And I guess it makes sense that we started there. And I think we're looking really good there. I think you'd be sort of happy with the inventory of things. I'm sure there's more that we can do with our municipal assets. But what your presentation does is gets us looking outside of that and looking at the community as a whole. And it is so true. We have so many historic structures, and they are faced with, the landlords of those structures are faced with the challenges of making sure that they are accessible to everyone. And I think you've sort of highlighted, we have a long way to go, especially in the villages there where we have some of our commercial spaces. You know, the more recent commercial development areas in the township, you know, ADA guidelines were perhaps in place, and so there's not as much of a challenge. But I think your inventory and your suggestions are really well timed, because it's time for us to now look a little outside of ourselves and go into the community and see where we can assist some of those property owners so that we can make it more accessible. So this is terrific. I'm thinking that maybe we'll follow up with maybe even Paul Marienthal, and you know Paul, I think from BART, and maybe we'll figure out if we can do a project that takes your work a step further and comes up with specific recommendations, and then we can have some meetings with some of these property owners and see you know, what we can accomplish. So this is terrific. Town board members, anything for Riley, who is just 18 years old, as she said. Bill? No? Well, this is very insightful, very helpful. Thank you so much, Riley. We appreciate your work.
Thank you.
It's been a great way to start the town board meeting, and thank you all for joining us. We're going to go on to perhaps less important, but work that we do need to get done. Agenda item number 3. We reviewed all our audit reports, but then failed to do a resolution on the judicial audit report. And they need that for their records. So Deanna, we have resolution number,
58,
was that a 5 or 6?
5,
5,
5, 8.
Thank you very much. It's dated 12/8/2020, accepting the audit reports for 2020, August 31st, 2020 for year ended December 31st, 2019. And it lists those audit reports, but we're doing a formality of a resolution for the judicial court audit. And so I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill O'Neill. All in favor, Christine Kane,
Aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item number 4, very quickly, I think I mentioned earlier, Adele's Dairy is making a donation to the Red Hook Public Library. We are the conduit for that donation. We have to, as a municipality, accept the funds for this specific purpose, which is to advance the good work of the Red Hook Public Library. This donation is for $2,500. And Dell's, as you know, last year made a generous donation of $10,000 towards that accessible playground that we were talking about at Red Hook Rec Park. So is there a motion to accept this donation?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Bill Hamel. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christine Kane. If there's no further discussion, all in
I
favor?
just have one quick thing, Robert. I just wanted to mention that I see, obviously the check is here. So, I'm very supportive of, passing the funds through to the Red Hook Public Library. I guess I'm just a little confused as to why the check was sent to the town, since the library is not a municipal library and there is a nonprofit associated with it, the Friends of Red Hook Public Library. So, and the same with the rec park too. There certainly was a nonprofit fundraising arm. So I just would like us to perhaps be a little proactive to reach out to make sure that the donations can go directly to the organizations that the people want to support, and they don't have to run through the town.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Christine. Any other comments? All right, we'll finish the vote. All in favor? Jacob Testa, I think we were at you. Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Bill Hamel,
Aye.
myself. Thank you very much. Okay. We have gone to the dogs tonight. Agenda number 5 is a discussion and resolution to approve renewals of the dog control services agreement and the housing agreement. These are with the Dutchess County SPCA. And Bill Hamel, Christine Shaw, anything to point out, anything different this year than in previous years with these agreements? I take that as
Not materially.
okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything to note of interest, I don't think.
Okay.
I did ask the SPCA contact to identify their DCOs for you so that you have direct current contact information for those folks, both Robert and Bill liaisons. So you might want to make that information available to the clerk and perhaps to the police officers.
Yep, and I think we have that on the website, so we should, Matt, we should take a look at that and update that tomorrow if that has changed at all. Okay, very good. This would be resolution number 59, if there's no further discussion on this agenda item. And I so move. It's approving both the housing agreement and the animal control services agreement between the town of Red Hook and the Dutchess County SPCA. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Bill Hamel with the second. All in favor, Jacob Testa, that sounded like an aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
Christine Kane,
Aye.
thank you very much. Reorganization, we have a couple of letters of interest. We're not going to make any appointments tonight. We haven't heard anything back from the chairs of both of the planning board. We have a letter of interest for that and for the ITF, but you have that in your docket. So we will tackle that at the next meeting. And for some of those boards and committees, there's some expirations coming up. And so let's take a look at that as we do reorg for January. Okay, very good. That's agenda item number 6. Agenda item number 7 is a resolution authorizing, it's a bond resolution. I think I referenced this earlier. We were able to take advantage of low interest rates, and this is yet another resolution that might accomplish the same goal. And so this would authorize the town, should it decide to move forward with some funding for those express purposes. And this is resolution number 60. It's dated December 8th, 2020, authorizing the acquisition of interest or rights in real property for open space, recreational, up to a maximum amount of $1.9 million. And I think I referenced earlier the CPF amount and the fact that the CPF funds could be used on certain occasions to also pay down bonds for completed projects. That's in the language. Okay, very good. I so move resolution number 60. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bill O'Neill. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Christine Kane,
Aye.
Jacob Testa, Bill Hamel.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, correspondence. So we have a couple of items that have come in under correspondence I'd like to tackle. And then we have a resolution. We need to go out to bid on the project we've been talking about a lot, which is the solar on the highway garage. We finally have the language the way we want it for the RFP. So that'll be next. But first, we have some correspondence from the developers at Tradition. They are asking us to release the performance bond as it relates to the water and wastewater infrastructure. The Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority has taken over ownership of this. Matt, if you'd be kind enough to go to that document, the Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority. Yeah, there's a letter you'll see with the there. Well, I can read it as you scroll. It's addressed to, there we go, very good. It's confirmation that they've met all of the conditions, and so therefore they've taken over ownership of this system, and so they've performed, if you will, on all of the elements related to that. And Chris, do you want to talk about the other aspect of that?
So, am I muted? No. So we received a report from our town engineers for this project, Time Bond, indicating that they had reviewed updated estimates based on the completed portions of the project, and they've identified an amount for phase 1, an amount for phase 2 and 3 that would be needed going forward to complete the project, and recommended that we approve a reduction in the bond amount to reflect the current remaining amounts of the portions of the project to be done. And as Robert indicated, the DCWA, our engineers have indicated that they have accepted the sewer and water facilities, the operating part of the sewer and water facilities. So they were satisfied with that.
Okay, do we have a resolution for that, Chris?
You have a resolution.
We do. I'm not sure I have the resolution. Matt, do we have a resolution for that we can put up on the screen?
70 in the second packet that Matt should have.
Okay.
Matt, can you find that?
There we go. Yep, you had it, Matt. Oh. Resolution regarding performance bond reduction for tradition. This would be resolution.
No, you were right there, Matt.
You were there,
Yeah.
Matt. There you go.
It's the new
Okay.
one. You only see the other ones because those are referred to in this resolution.
That's right.
The background information to see that we originally approved a bond for number 1, and then we approved a bond for 2 and 3. So this is approving a modification of both of those bond amounts.
So this would be resolution 61, is that right, Deanna? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
No,
62?
no, yes, it is 61.
61? Okay, thank you. It's a resolution regarding performance bond reduction for tradition at Red Hook, sections 1, 2, and 3. And I so move. Is there a
Second.
second? Thank you, Bill O'Neill. Any questions, further discussion? If not, all in favor, Christine Kane,
Aye.
Jacob Testa, Bill Howell.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's jump to Matt. I'm sorry if I'm making you a little dizzy there, but can we move to the RFP documents on the highway solar? As you know, for the folks at home, just a reiteration, this is yet again another project that's being financed in part by a grant award that we received from New York State, $100,000. By being only the 4th township in New York State to be declared a clean energy community. And so we've got some funds to put towards the construction of a photovoltaic system on the highway garage. When the highway garage was built several years ago, it was constructed with this in mind. And so we now have what we think are the right RFP documents and the sizing of the system. And so the bid package is available at the town clerk's office and will be available and will be going out within the next day or so. And
Matt, excuse me, Matt, could you find page 165, which actually has the resolution for the board? Thank you.
I thought he had that, no?
That's it.
No,
That's it right
terrific.
there.
This is resolution 62. It's authorizing the solicitation of public bids for solar panels on the highway garage roof. And for the folks at home, the size of this system will be not only sufficient to supply the highway garage for their electrical needs, it will also have access that we can use on a few accounts that we weren't able to use towards the community solar project. And so we will be, we expect to be fully clean energy supplied for all of our municipal grounds here in the town of Red Hook. Resolution number 62, and I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
I think that might have been Christine.
Can you call Alec?
All in favor? Bill O'Neill,
Yes, aye.
Jacob Testa,
Aye.
Bill Hamill. Okay,
Aye.
very good. Moving right along, the last item is more correspondence. We received a letter from the village mayor. I think it dovetails nicely into some of the work, the police reform initiative work that's being conducted in New York State and in Dutchess County and locally here with Red Hook Village and the town of Red Hook, which contracts with the Red Hook Village Police for a portion of their services. And this is something we've been discussing for a while, is whether or not it would benefit the community for the police officers to wear body cameras. And it it turns out that there's a lot of interest, not only from local electeds, not only from our community, but also from the police officers themselves. And so the mayor is writing to us with, an estimate of what that cost might be, and wanting to know whether or not we would share in a proportional allocation of that expense in order to endeavor. And so the full cost is approximately $14,000, and they are asking whether we would consider a contribution of approximately a third or 35% of that cost. And we did have some correspondence from our council person Hamill about potential grant opportunities. And so, Bill, did you want to speak to that for a second?
Well, having worked for the federal government, the Department of Justice gives grants to state and local law enforcement agencies for just this and many other things. I did go to their website. Unfortunately, the grant period for this year is closed, but I believe the cycle starts in February or March. There's an application that has to go in, and you may or may not win. The only downside to that is it requires a one-to-one match. But it would enable, should you be awarded the grant, to maybe buy something more sophisticated or higher end than what you might be looking at. And it's something that I encourage the mayor and Pat to reach out to some of the other law enforcement agencies that are small that also got these grants to speak to them about the process, and they might have some helpful information.
And the probability of getting one of these grants. It'd probably be helpful to have some idea of how likely it would or would not be that we would get one of these. Yeah. That's very
Well,
helpful.
it probably just depends on the number of applications that go into the round.
And the amount of funding right now.
Right.
It also depends on the quality of the application. And as someone who's reviewed grant applications in the federal government, some are better than others, and they do grade them and they score them. So, a well-written grant application probably will get more attention.
Okay. Well, it certainly sounds like something we would encourage them to explore. They are the governing body over the Red Hook Police. Were they not to be successful, or we find out that they've discovered it's too onerous or unlikely that they would receive funds, I think tonight they're looking for a general sense from the board whether or not we would be favorable to making a contribution otherwise. And I note that even your information with regard to this DOJ application means that there needs to be a match. So whether or not it turns out to be around 5,000 for our contribution or 2,500 for our contribution, I wonder if you all have a general sentiment that we'd like to express to the village trustees and the mayor.
The third doesn't sound too bad. I'd buy into that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fully supportive.
Okay.
Yes,
Jacob?
I think it would be a good thing to have for the local police department, and that we're as is explained in Mayor Blundell's memo, we did not have any increase in our contract with the village police this year, so this could be another way to help with that.
Yeah, sorry,
Jacob?
Justine. Yeah, I'm supportive as well. And just to be clear, this is a one-time thing, right? There's not going to be an ongoing cost for storage of the video or anything like that. It's just the cost of acquiring the cameras and the storage and the charging rack, I think, and the training, I guess. So the ask is for a one-time thing and not an ongoing yearly thing, right? Correct. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so it sounds like we're unanimous in expressing our support for making a contribution, whatever that is, 5,000 and change or less, depending upon if we can have a successful grant application, but that we support having body cameras, and we appreciate the support from the police and from the village trustees for such an effort. Very good. And included with this correspondence is an update on Dutchess County's Police Reform and Modernization Collaborative. And so, Matt, I'm wondering if we might add that to the town's website as well. I know that this is a document that is in draft format, not yet finalized, but I think it's quite lengthy nonetheless. And so something that folks might be interested in. Very good. Well, I think we made some very good progress tonight, moved through our agenda rather quickly. I wanted to suggest that our next meeting is otherwise scheduled for December 23rd. It seems to fall at a time where I don't think that the public will be likely available to watch the meeting, and certainly some of you may be preparing for the holidays as well. I'd like to suggest that we go ahead and cancel that meeting, but that we remain open to scheduling a special meeting in case we have to conduct some business before the end of the year. And you're all okay with that schedule?
I agree.
Okay,
Yes, that sounds good.
that works for you. Okay, very good. And checking again, I see that we don't have any additional public comments. So at this time, for the folks at home, we want to wish you, if we don't see you, a healthy and a happy holiday, and to once again implore upon you, do whatever you can to keep each other safe. There looks like there's the light at the end of this tunnel. We just need to get there. So we thank you all for your assistance. At this time, I would like to make a motion that we close tonight's meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Good night.